Here it is, the brand new 10th anniversary limited edition Summit Press. Let's take a closer look. Here it is. This is the Summit Press that I've been waiting about 6 months for. I was up at the Rock Chuck Olympics with Ultimate Reloader, and one of the prizes that the contestants got was a certificate to RCBS. Eric Cortina, being one of the participants, was kind enough to give me the certificate. And I gave away pretty much all of the things that I ordered and have done reviews on, but the only one I said I was keeping for myself was this Summit Press, but it wasn't ready yet. Well, I just got it a few days ago. I've had a chance to play with it, and I have to say, I am really excited about this one. Now, this is the limited edition one. It's the 10th anniversary for the Summit Press. It has this Freedom camo on it that you can see. It looks like a hydro dip, basically, red, white, and blue. And then the rest of the assembly looks to be, I don't think it's anodized necessarily, but it looks to be coated in sort of a very nice sort of NRA type blue color. I'm a big fan of this. You know, it's weird to see an RCBS product that isn't the traditional green, but I'm not going to lie, I really love the color on this thing. One of the things, you know, it's funny. So I had posted up, you know, I did a review on, you know, the Prep Station and Chargemaster Lite and some other stuff. And when I kept talking about the fact that I was waiting for a Summit Press, I got a lot of comments that said, are you sure it's not going to break? Or, hey, ask them if they fixed the braking problem. And I had no idea what people were talking about because I don't use a Summit Press, or I haven't used one in the past. And so I brought it up to the rep. I said, hey, you know, this is the comment that keeps coming up. You know, help me understand this. And he said, yeah, you know, we've had a few. Obviously, the, you know, squeaky wheels are, you know, always going to be out there. But yes, we have had some that have broken, and we are taking corrective measures. And I said, okay, great. Well, when the new press comes, let's talk, and you can let me know what has been done so that I can pass that on. Well, I'm going to start out by showing you sort of an example of what's going on and what they had fixed. And what you see here is there's two ears on the press, and they are what sort of hold the pivot assembly here as it goes up and down. And what has happened in the past is this bolt assembly was a solid thread, right? So like an all thread, well, it's not all thread, but it's all threads on the bolt that was going through. And so it was possible to over tighten this, which would cause stress on the ears, right? So that the ears would be pushed in. And if people were to take this apart and clean it and put it back together, or just over tighten it thinking that it was loose, or if there was for some reason assembled incorrectly and somebody over torqued it, you'd be putting strain on these ears, which could then cause it to crack. Honestly, probably pretty easily, I could see now that I'm looking at it. So I understand the concerns. Well, what did they do? Well, what they did is they put in a bolt. This isn't it, but it's similar to this, where you only have threads on the end, and they've only put enough thread so that you cannot over torque this. And I thought, well, I might as well play with it. So I threw a set of sockets on here, tried to over torque it. I couldn't. It sure, you know, sure enough has a shoulder here, and it's going to hit it, and you can't over torque it. The same thing goes for the two bolts holding these ears. And I have seen people that have put a bolt, you know, I've had a lot of time to kind of research this press, and I've seen a lot of interesting fixes for it. But one of the things I have seen also is somebody putting an entire bolt across here, which again could lead to over torquing. And then I've seen some solid rods and stuff like that, but I've been told that it is 100% not necessary at this point. These bolts are the same way. You can't over torque them, so they always have the right amount of play in them. Everything has been sort of readjusted in terms of how the bolts work so that it can't over torque and cause any stress on it. How does the press work? Oh, wait, before I go there, one other reason why I have, you know, I've seen, like I said, bolts going across here. One of the other reasons that you wouldn't want that is, let's say you had a die here, you obviously can't get it over the die. So it really limits the die choices that you can use. So I don't know. It just, like, I get it, but at the same time, I don't see the necessity right now. But in all fairness, this isn't my daily driver of a press. I'm sure there are people who have thousands of hours on these things and have a very good reason for what they do. But it does sound like RCBS has listened to the mass populace out there when it comes to the problems that have possibly been seen over the last 10 years with the Summit, and are really trying to make it right. The press itself, if you're not familiar with it, operates in a die down method, meaning if I put a die in here, all right, so if I go ahead and thread in a die, then I put my brass down here, and it is going to push the die down onto the brass. I really like that methodology. It's very similar to some large progressives that work the same way. And from a reloading standpoint, I think it makes a lot of sense. I like applying the pressure in that way. Not that there's anything wrong with ramming brass upwards either, but I do like it. It makes for a very compact form factor. Obviously, I can put it on top of my bench here. I've got all this room on the edge. I don't have to worry about, drawers not opening or catching things as I walk by. The limited edition also comes with the shorter handle here, which I love this shorter handle. You can see in the manual, this is the standard version. It has the long, high leverage handle, but as with other presses I've owned that have options for shorter and longer handles, I've always chosen the shorter handle. They're faster. I find they're a little easier on the hands, and I have yet to have brass that necessitated a long handle. I suppose it's out there. I just haven't run into it in any of my reloading. This large, giant ram post back here, you have a Zerk fitting, or what we used to call a grease nipple fitting, that you can put grease in that will help keep this lubricated, although it, trust me, is plenty lubricated right now. And it has a little decapping catch, so you can either hang it vertically or put it horizontally like I've got here. So if I'm going to do any decapping, like this is my decapper here, you can do that. Now, I do know that there are things you can do to single stage presses to use some other bushing type systems, and I've used those in the past as well with other presses, and they also work very well. You can obviously thread the dies in as it's designed, and if you're using larger diameter dies, then if you're not familiar with how this works, you can actually get, I have it loose right now because I was playing with it, but you can actually get the entire assembly out right here and put a larger diameter die in, just like you could on a rock chucker, right? So that comes out, you can put in a larger die or something else if you wanted to. So again, it gives a lot of flexibility. Now, for me, you're probably saying, well, this doesn't look like something you'd really use, and you'd be wrong. So is this going to be my, as I would call it, daily driver? No, to be honest, it's not. I'm not going to do the bulk of anything on this. But what this is for me is this is probably the best backup press that I could own. One, it takes up a minimal amount of space. I can leave it set up all the time. I had a Forster coax that I really like. It's a great press, but it's big, it's heavy, it's hard to move around when it's not your primary press. I had it on a stand that I would have to clamp to a bench. And to be honest, because of all that, I never used it. It literally sat in the corner collecting dust, and I sold it not too long ago. This checks all the boxes for me. It's small, it's easy to use. I can throw my dies in and do whatever little things I need. And for me, what I really see using this for is maybe I've got a few pieces of brass that need to, get sized, or I got a few pieces of brass that need to be expanded or decapped, or, any of those kinds of things. If I want to play with bullet pointing, I could throw a bullet pointer in here and, do a bunch of small batch type stuff. It really checks the box for me being able to not feel locked into having to turn on a machine, do a bunch of calibrations, before I can do a single operation. And that happens. Like, I'm human. I end up with one piece of brass that missed a primer, or I missed, it missed something else. And I'll show you. So I don't even know if you can buy these anymore, but it's called the Positive RAM Priming Unit. It's from RCBS. And this is probably one of the few things that you'll never get out of my hands, as silly as it seems. But what it's designed to do, as a side note, is it actually primes brass. And I've used this more times in the past on other presses than I can count. But what you do is you simply you simply take this, you put your shell holder in the top, you're going to screw this down in, and then what it does is it lets you put a piece of brass up here. You can put a single primer in there, and then when you bring this down, it will prime. I've done, again, when I had another single stage press, I used this thing a lot when I wanted to do any kind of, testing where I do a couple pieces of brass with different stages and things like that, where, using a progressive just really didn't make 100% sense to me. And I don't know why that's, I wedged that in there. Oh, well, that's on me. Anyway, being able to use this, and I've already done priming on this, so I've been really happy with it. And so from that aspect, there we go. From that aspect, it's, again, given me a lot more versatility. So if you're in the market for, either a primary or a backup press, you don't have a lot of room, you don't want to have a lot of arm swing or a lot of, pivoting on pieces and rams and stuff like that, I would definitely check out the Summit Press. It is very unique. A buddy of mine's had one for almost 10 years now. He has literally bought one, I think, the first year it came out. And for him, it's one of those presses he'll never get rid of because he just loves the versatility of it. So, again, big shout out to RCBS back when we were doing the Rock Chuck Olympics, big sponsor of that. They've been great to work with so far in terms of, just staying in contact with what the updates are, how they fix things. And again, that just helps me believe that, after all these years, RCBS still cares about the customers. So if you have any questions, comments, I'm sure there is still a lot of polarizing stuff about the Summit Press that I'm going to hear. Hit me up in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts on the Summit Press and what you've done with it and why you love it. And other than that, I will say this is available on the RCBS website as we speak. It just launched, I think this week or last week. I mean, it literally just came out in the last couple weeks. Expect to see some of them at a few big box retailers, I was told. But it is not going to be a widespread thing. And I know the last time they did a limited edition Summit Press, it was they did like a red, a white, and a blue. Similar concept with American flag. I know that it's sold out very quickly, and they have since become a very highly sought after item. So if this is something you fancy, I would definitely jump on it sooner than later. As always, appreciate you watching. You have a good day. We'll talk later.